So the second thing we had to develop a proxy for, and again, I just want to emphasize proxy, was how many of our teachers are currently effective or highly effective. The definition of a highly effective teacher is a teacher who moves student achievement 2 standard deviations above the norm. That's highly effective. That means we couldn't quite do the analysis down to the level we wanted to, which is, about 1.2, 1.3 years of learning for a year of seat time. It doesn't quite equate to that, but that's a proxy. In other words, a rock star teacher, somebody who the vast majority of the students sitting in their classroom learn a reasonable amount more than a year's worth of knowledge during their year's worth of time with that teacher. Now again, the results we got were, we thought, pretty cool for the current situation. We found that 55% of our teachers, now what's our proxy again? Remember, we don't have a robust teacher evaluation system yet, we're moving to it. And we don't have a sophisticated value-added model yet, but we're moving to it. But we did have for teachers between 4th and 8th grade, in core subject areas, meaning math and ELA, 2 years of value-added data through the PPS system. And I'm sorry if this is esoteric, it just is. But that is measuring student growth, not absolute PSSA levels, but growth. And analyzing those teachers, 4th to 8th grade teachers, we found among those teachers that 55% of them performed better than the state average. Okay? Now, a lot of people from the union were actually very upset. They said, Mark, that's so disappointing. I said, well, wait a minute. I mean, average is average, and if you've got more teachers above average than under average, it's not that disappointing. But maybe even a little better news, and we didn't probably expect this, was that 28% of the teachers qualified as highly effective. They were moving kids substantially more than average. And interestingly for us, and different than other school systems, and this, again, you wouldn't necessarily have expected, they were reasonably equally distributed across schools and across income and racial lines. Meaning that a vast majority of our most effective teachers were not teaching our most privileged students. It was pretty evenly distributed. It wasn't evenly distributed, but it was close to evenly distributed. So then you analyze this, and again, using a very sophisticated matrix that I cannot explain, but passed muster with them, taking where we currently are with student achievement, the green bars, trying to get to 50, how many of your teachers need to be effective or highly effective in 5 years to have those results? And that's work that I didn't do, luckily, but that other people did. So what they determined was for us, in 5 years, if we wanted to achieve the 50%, and obviously there are many other factors involved, but among teachers and effective teaching, we would have to move that number to 78% being above the state average, and 41% being rock star teachers. My nomenclature for 2 standard deviations above the norm. Now when you think about that, hard, challenging, a lot of demand on teachers, right? Because that's, but not completely Pollyannish from where we're starting. So the entirety of the Gates proposal that I'm now going to give you is about trying to accomplish that. Every single bit of this proposal is about trying to move our teaching force, new teachers, current teachers, to that status. Okay, McKinsey, as a consulting firm, if you spend any time with them, they love wheels. Everything comes down to a wheel. It can get demoralizing. This is the wheel of the work. Part of being in a listening relationship, and we were a listening relationship with our teachers, was listening to them. And they very much emphasized the outside of that wheel, learning environment. Strongly believe that we need to work collectively together to ensure that every classroom is a place where teachers can teach and students can learn. And that has to do with behavioral expectations, behavioral norms, and the ability to have effective classroom management. Inside of that wheel, at the core, the red, are the 2 new initiatives that are the from everything else moves around. Our new teacher evaluation system, which we had begun working on with our teaching force prior to the Gates project. It's called RISE. Now right now, just so you know, like most people, most school districts, we issue teachers an evaluation. You either get a satisfactory or an unsatisfactory. That's it. Very few people get unsats. Those who get satisfactories aren't told, you know, are you great? Are you okay? Are you medium? What could you do better at? Where do you lack skill? Where can we help you? Nothing. Just satisfactory. It's useless, virtually, as a tool. So we are working collaboratively with our teachers. And in the first year, it's being piloted this year, it's being piloted in half of our schools, so probably in half of the schools that you guys come from, is a more sophisticated rubric that has the ability to diagnose teacher strengths and weaknesses far more. And it's not, you know, designed just to weed teachers out. It's designed to help give teachers a sense of where they're highly effective, where they could be more effective, and get help where teachers have weaknesses. VAM is a value-added model. This is, of course, the most controversial thing in the proposal and in American discussions about these issues. And that basically means that the core of any evaluation has to be student performance measurement. And the value-added model we will develop is exactly that, a measure of student growth in every classroom. And that's a large piece of the work in front of us. The national union is partnering with us, our local union. We have a good deal of consulting help, but that will be the arrival. It's very difficult to do, to arrive at a transparent and fair measure of teacher effectiveness. It's especially difficult to do where you have no test data, right? Like for a music teacher or an art teacher, or a teacher teaching English language arts or math in a non-tested grade, like 9th or 10th grade. It's complicated. If it were easy, a lot of people would have done it. The rest of the outside there are the things that we're going to do. Recruit. I mean, part of me is embarrassed to have this discussion with you, to be honest, because of how poor we've done on these things. This process revealed to me a lot of weaknesses in what we did, some of which I own. I've been here 4 years. We recruit very late. Linda Lane has an expression, which her grandmother used to say, if you're going to go to the grocery store at 6 o'clock looking for fresh produce, you're going to find everything's been picked through. Our highest hiring month for teachers in Pittsburgh is July and August. Sorry. Most of our suburban competitors are hiring in February, March, or April. So we are going to, and it's not easy, by the way. Everything in this world seems easy. I mean, it seems to me you could just say, let's hire earlier, but it's partly contractual. There's partly a lot of other things, but we are going to start hiring earlier. And we haven't been using very sophisticated recruiting techniques. So one of the things that we're going to do is there's a process that Gallup, and I know you probably know Gallup as a public opinion poll, but they've been working on called the Urban District Perceiver for 20 years. It's basically a tool to help you analyze the attitudes and the belief systems of the people you're looking to hire. Okay? So we're going to be doing a lot of that. We're also, for the first time, and this again is controversial, we're going to be willing to hire non-certified teachers in core subject areas, because there's lots of evidence that, especially for minority teachers, they don't go through schools of education to the degree, if they're high-end, coming out of good schools with good grades, they're apt to go into Teach for America, which does not require certifications. You know, Teach for America this year, 20% of Ivy League graduates applied for Teach for America. I mean, so there's a lot of kids who are very bright and very educated. So that is a part of the plan. You can imagine how some people feel about that, but it's part of it. Develop this little nobule. I get very tired politically of people that like to put everything on the union. This is my biggest point of embarrassment. Tenure is not a collective bargaining agreed upon thing. Tenure is state law. I don't know if you all realize that. The state requires a tenure law. After 3 years, we tenure people. Now, one would think a well-managed school system would treat that decision as a milestone. Very carefully examine the credentials of teachers who are about to be granted tenure. We, like unfortunately most of our compatriots, have not been treating it like a milestone. In fact, most of our principals haven't even been informed